is an open letter for the Sane Society. I thought maybe for a while I say some good stuff about Uncle Sam's managers. Hopefully Wells Fargo give back my account. Hopefully Wells Fargo gives back my account. Just good things that I see Uncle Sam's managers do, in my humble view. A short while ago, I saw this I heard it on NPR that Miss or Mrs. Kyrsten Sinema was penalized somehow, somewhere, financial or otherwise, penalized for using campaign funds to go and see the peripheries of the empire for herself. I'm sorry, campaign funds are not for that? A sitting senator cannot use her campaign funds to see the peripheries of the empire? I'm sorry, is the objective having her not know shit? Stuff? I'm sorry. Did I say shit? I mean stuff. Is the objective for her not to see, not to know? I think the most important use of a campaign fund is travel. Maybe not in 5-star hotels, maybe motels. Maybe, a very cozy motels in a very unassuming manner to observe the natives of the lands that at least you consider as part of the empire, part of the territory that you feel you have influence in or want to have influence in. Have any of the have all the representatives and senators travel to Taiwan under assumed identity, or very quietly under their own identity, but very quietly travel Taiwan and see the people and observe the customs. I think Mrs. Sinema did a great thing. Maybe not a 5-star hotel, maybe a cozy motel, but the doing it's absolutely necessary. It should be part of the curriculum. Every year, a large sum of their time. Here's the thing: when you own territory, your legislature has the duty to travel to that territory. So you have these, supposedly the senators are from Arizona, okay? But Taiwan is not really independent. Taiwan is a wholly owned subsidiary of Washington DC, or a lot of other, Nauru and Palau and Japan, or all these European countries, all of them, any European country that is part of NATO is in the family, is part of the empire. How many of these folks have traveled to Hungary? Senators, representatives, all these European countries that are now part of the empire, on their own, to observe, to learn. None. Very, very few. It's like, Ukraine has come on the news for a few years. Yes, we do encourage you to go to Ukraine, but we don't encourage you to go to Albania, Romania. In the street, get the feel of the street. Even in Ukraine, it's sort of like, no, you can't go anywhere you want. You go to Ukraine, you shake hand with the guy in charge, we put in charge over there, and you come back. Say a few good things. If you can't even say a few good things, that's fine. Just shake hands and get the fuck out. Salute. As a result, Mr. Piers Morgan can, you know, pretend to that he's speaking of the truth when he says that yes, well, I was just there a few months ago. There was full support amongst the people that I saw for continuation of the war. And you're thinking to yourself that, so you don't think we understand that you have been taken there under the cover of darkness, you've seen the janitor, and then you've seen the president, you shook hands with the president, and you shook heads with the janitor, and you left, supposed president. You've seen like 3 people. You went to Ukraine, you saw 2 people, you come back and you say, yes, apparently everybody is for it. No, not this kind of travel, folks. You know, the kind of travel that you go to a family who doesn't want to let their son go and get killed. Because, you know, in 10 years, 20 years, who knows, 30 years, you guys, you know, shake hands and go your way and agree on something, but her son won't come alive. Are you fucking kidding me? Salute. Now, granted, Mrs. Sinema, you know, in other aspects may have, at which I said I'm not going to talk about. So, in just this aspect, Mrs. Sinema is right. She, as a representative of her people, she should be, you know, in my view, in my humble view, the representatives that get elected this year should not take their seat this year, but they should take their seat in 4 years' time. Why? Because those who are elected in 4 years, for 4 years, they are given a curriculum of seeing all the, at least the allies, maybe some of the foes, who if the allies, if for these people, for these representatives who just got elected, right? For 4 years, they should be given points and money to go and visit all the allies, stay anonymously, especially because they were elected, but they haven't still taken seat. So it would be less risky, you know, security-wise. But they go to the 4 corners of the territories, and they get, you know, 1 point for visiting an ally, and if they actually go and spend some time in one of the countries that we don't consider as ally, we consider as foes, if he or she goes and spends time there, he gets 3 points. 1 point to visit and stay for extended periods of time, 2-3 months. You know, you have 4 years to prepare these representatives to go and represent. All their life, they have seen their own home state, home constituency. Now, for 4 years, they go and experience the rest of the planet, and then they go take their seat. After 4 years, they take their seat as a representative, because, you know, they have spent a lifetime at home, but now they need to have a, you know, bigger picture in mind. So now, before taking their seat, even before taking their seat, for 4 years, they have to go and investigate the world, become familiar with the rest of the world, then take their seat as a representative or a senator or a president. I kind of doubt, and if they can't take 4 years of learning and seeing and learning and observing, if they can't do that, then they're next in line, whoever was next. If they quit in the middle, which I would have thought that you would think somebody like, you know, George W. Bush would have quit this course. You know, even if he had won the presidency, then, you know, it would take 4 years for even the president to take office. So during those 4 years, if George W. Bush was mandatorily had to travel around the empire, see the empire for what it is, and then take office in the, again, not under the bunker, but in the street with the people, and then take the office, I think George W. Bush would have been a much more wiser, worldlier man that he was before taking office. I think if, Dick Cheney could have lasted through that 4-year course of seeing the world, just seeing, observing the world. You spend a lifetime worrying about your hometown. Okay, that's great. But now you want to take charge of an empire. Well, now you have to go and travel for 4 years at least. So when you go take office, yes, your main concern is going to be your own hometown. That's fine, because that's where mom and dad live, or the son and daughter live. But then you have a worldly wisdom that has come in 4 years. Not only you don't require them to do it, not only is, and because the reality is, for the past 30, 40, 50 years now, since the coming down of the wall, you had one empire was standing, and although it was ruling over a lot of shit, but its leaders had very limited understanding of all that shit, including the shithole in the West Asia. My personal shit hole. Here's the thing. I mean, imagine George W. Bush mandatory had to spend 2-3 months in Egypt, 2 months in Algeria, 2 months in Lebanon, 2 months in Iraq. It's 4 years is a lot of time. So you give each continent their dues. Like you have to stay and travel between 1 year in South America, 1 year in Africa, 1 year in Asia, 1 year in Europe. I think you would think George W. Bush would have stayed George W. Bush the way he was, uninformed, nonchalant, cowboy? No. We'll spend 3 months in China. You won't think cowboy anymore. And then you find out that in extension to this, there's this law that one of Tucker Carlson's guests came and stated publicly, that there is this common understanding, that the representatives, ambassadors that we send to countries around the world as Uncle Sam's managers, those ambassadors that we pick and send should not be familiar with the place they go. So sticking with Arizona, Mrs. McCain ends up as ambassador to Turkey. Salute. I don't think Mrs. McCain speaks Turkish. So who's really in charge? It's not the ambassador. It's actually the bureaucracy that is in charge. That is the State Department that is in charge of activity with the destination country, not the ambassador, because the ambassador doesn't even speak their language. Forget about knowing their culture. So it's not really truly representative, is it? It's bureaucracy. I mean, when you go against common sense, then you send an inept, not maliciously, just inept. They go and learn during their period of ambassadorial endeavor. They go and learn They go to learn. It's like, no, folks. Okay, you want to send her lordship as an ambassador to Turkey? Okay, her lordship, along with 20 other people, have to have 4 years to just travel around Turkey. Do you think anybody with the status of Mrs. McCain would want to travel 4 years around Turkey and maybe learn some of the language, pick up some of the custom before she's given the ambassadorial seat? No, I don't think so. Mrs. McCain would give up right away and say, nope, thank you very much. I have things to do in a country that I speak their language and know their custom. Thank you very much, but this is not for me. I'm not going to spend 4 years of my life sniffing armpits in the bazaars of Turkey because after 4 years I want to be the ambassador to Turkey. She says, no, thank you very much. It's not worth it for me. This is how politics is run. Why? Because it's very mechanical. You pick up a wrench number 8 to open up the bolt number 8. You pick up a person who knows Turkish language and Turkish custom, so actually can represent and be a good observer. If you don't know their customs, how can you be a good observer? If you don't know their customs, how can... These ambassadorial ships are basically a lookout post. You know, this is a small fort in a destination country that is under your control, it's part of your territory, so it's a fort. In reality, it's a fort. You send an ambassador there who is literally blind to the customs, blind to deaf to the language, blind, deaf, and dumb. You send ambassadors who are to their local area, they're sort of like blind, deaf, and dumb. You don't understand the customs, you're blind. It's like you're blind. You don't understand the language, it's like you're deaf and dumb. What part of you're sending Helen Keller and her student you said Helen Keller's students as ambassadors of the empire, and you prohibit your own senators from traveling overseas as well to the Sane Society. To Ambassador Helen Keller. Then you say, okay, why is this ship has met choppy waters? The ship of state, the ship of empire, why is facing choppy waters? Do your people know what they're doing? You know, there is a rough part of the sea, and then there is a soft part of the sea. You don't have to travel in the rough seas if you can avoid it. And avoiding it needs a captains or a collection of captains who know the sea, who know what part of the sea is calmer and what part is more choppy. That means the ambassador has to be very familiar with the local language and customs in order to head the ship of state of his, the state that has sent him there, away from choppy waters and in calm waters with no misunderstanding. A lot of these, overthrows and participation in on the ground with political activities of the destination countries, a lot of these misunderstandings by the CIA has later on come out that yes, there was an understanding, for example, that Arbenz in Nicaragua, I think, one of these small states in Central America, Arbenz was, in bed, wanted to be communist, and was in bed with the Russians. I'm sorry, who was the ambassador? How much did he know? Later on, it became clear that no, that wasn't the case. He was just a nationalist, and I guess United Fruit Company wanted to have more say in, life, in a commerce in Nicaragua. So they didn't like our Benz, and they told CIA that these guys are going to go communist. So why don't you overthrow them? And those guys are going to go communist, and why don't you overthrow them? And those guys are terrorists, why don't you overthrow them? These are all commercial interests that are guiding the bureaucracy. Commercial interest that is guiding bureaucracy. It's sort of like, Mr. Dick Cheney guiding the bureaucracy towards a war in West Asia. Many wars in West Asia. He has commercial interests, arms manufacturing and oil and this and that and the other interests. Commercial interest is always looking at ways of guiding political interests in their own favor. Mr. Mark Cuban has recently started, put a pair of glass on and started showing up in front of the cameras instead of behind the cameras and behind the, just paying the money to the lobbyists. Is ended up in front of the cameras because, I guess he wants to cut the middleman out. He wants to become his own lobbyist, which is, is tempting. You save a lot of money. But again, none of this would be happening if the political class was required that, okay, before taking office, for the bureaucracy not to take over. This is all the problem of when I say Uncle Sam's managers, I mean the bureaucracy. For the bureaucracy not to take over, the elected representative has to be very well versed in the aspect that they have been chosen to take care of with regards to the job that they have been elected to take care of. For the bureaucracy not to be able to pull the wool over the elected representative's eye is for that elected representative to be more versed in the doings of his office better than the bureaucrat. How does that happen? Elected representative takes off 4 years and has to complete a curriculum with regards to the job that they have been elected to do. You know what? It does a lot of good. First of all, it pulls out the weeds. I have a feeling George W. Bush would not have lasted through one of these 4-year courses. As a elected president, he's supposed to take care of half the fucking planet. So he had to, had 4 years to go to almost all allied countries, spend a couple of months in each one, and then some of the foes as well. I think he would have given up right away. So only those, so you send what? You send the elected, the number 1 person, number 2 person, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. You keep the top 10 in the election, and you give them this 4-year course. If they drop out, they lose their chance of becoming the president. If the first one drops out, the second one gets the chance. If the second one drops out, the third one. At the end of the day, you're sure that after 10, between the 10, one of them is going to stay in. You get rid of the riffraff. The one all you need is one. At the end of 4 years, that one is so well versed about the planet that he's going to be great president. Great. Because he's been versed about the planet. Senators the same way. First, and you get really those people who are now they're well versed and for staying 4 years, they show that they're dedicated. They're dedicated to the job that they've chosen to represent in. They got elected for. First, they get informed. Second, they show their dedication. Only the very well-versed, dedicated people actually take the seat of representation. You got people with no worldly experience sign up for the job. Oh, he looks good on camera. Give him the paper, he should sign. He looks good on camera. And no, okay, he looks good on camera, fine. Send him for 4 years before, if he gets elected, send him for 4 years to see the world, learn about the world. The system abhors that. The bureaucracy abhors elected representatives who actually know about the world. Sort of, no, we don't want that. We want somebody malleable, like Reagan. A lot of good Reagan did. You know, an actor, malleable. Very malleable. And then you sit back and say, why is this shit is hitting the fan? Which one of your representatives, your senators, your presidents, which one of them were worldly? Obama was the worldlier one, which, you know, there's many contrasting views, but, you know, the healthcare was something that he did for his tribe. I think that's after what, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years of nothing. This is something. It's you know, it's nobody else has done anything else. The tribe goes sick and sort of like, oh, you got sick, okay, sorry we lost you, man, you were a good worker, next. It's a very inhumane, the system of, you know, lack of, you know, healthcare that you had. It's a inhumane system that at least Obama, whatever his flaws are, has brought some humanity to the system, which nobody else did, Mr. Carlson. Nobody else did before him. However shitty the system is, you get to see a doctor without actually having to sell, like, your car. Salute. So the idea is that I think Mrs. Sinema did the right thing. I think, why is it that only Israel gets that kind of exception, that okay, you don't have to pay from campaign funds, but somebody else, Israelis, get to pay, have the right to pay for your travel to Israel. So you get a good understanding of Israel. But they don't care if you really have a good understanding of Tajikistan. Why not? Can the Tajiks pay for, you know, Uncle Sam's senators to travel to Tajikistan and stay for 3 months, 4 months? Why Israel gets to do that, pay for the travel? It's like for a senator or representative, it's free travel. What? Why? Because Israel is a true colonial fort. We have to go and see it and inspect it and care about it. But Tajikistan is not our imperial fort. It's not part of our imperial forts around the planet. So we really don't want to go and inspect it and see it and observe it. The problem with this is that the representative class, the political class, becomes at the mercy of the bureaucratic class. End of story. So the representatives are not actually representing anything because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And whatever the bureaucrats tell them, they have to say, oh, okay, Where do I sign? Oh, okay. We have to bomb them? Okay, but where do I sign? There's no other way beside bombing them? No? Okay, where do I sign? I'm sorry, imagine. George W. Bush's, imagine George W. Bush had finished 4 years of pre-presidential program of going through the whole planet, almost the whole planet. You know, you want to be president, you have to learn more. So you have to visit twice as many countries in 4 years that a senator does. So 1 month per country. So imagine George W. Bush had spent 1 month in Jordan and 1 month in Iraq under Saddam, in Iraq, 1 month in Kuwait and 1 month in Egypt and 1 month in Algeria and 1 month in Morocco. Do you think you would still get the same George W. Bush that was? Of course not. Would it be better for the planet? Of course. Would have been better for the planet? Yes, it would have. Much better. Gun-ho is for the gun-ho. Being a gun-ho is an act that a gun-ho does. Who's a gun-ho? Somebody who's got a gun but apparently not much brains. That's a gun-ho. Now here we have a senator, Mrs. Sinema, who has done this without, encouragement from the bureaucratic class. She has done it, and after she returns, they burn her at the stake. Why did you go? Why did you spend campaign funds to go? I'm sorry, I'm not a millionaire. I can't, go on my own dime. And this is campaign funds. What better use could it have than teach me, a senator, about the world? What better use campaign funds would have if not for travel? What better use than travel for campaign funds? Are you kidding me? And she's not supposed to spend that. Oh, it's for campaigning. This money is for spending on our own media to scream your name, but we don't care if behind your name there is a brain. So no traveling with this money. This money is for spending it on our media. People donate so you can put the money in the media machine. To the Sane Society. No, that money is just for the media machine. You're not supposed to spend that money and go learn about the world. That money is specifically for the media machine. It's called campaign fund. Well, it's called circus fund. That money is just for the circus. It must be spent in the circus, not outside. Now, you can't go see the town with that money. You have to spend it inside the tent. Circus tent. Yeah, I'm sorry, but these folks, then you wonder why these folks become circus performers, and they can cry on cue. Like, who was it recently in the Senate? They can cry on cue, and they clap on cue, and they can smile on cue. They're performers. You're not paying them to learn, you're paying them to perform. Vote the right way, smile the right way, provide a sound bite the right way. Performers, not wise men, performers. You can elect performers, that's fine. You elect the most beautiful people you can find. Good, beautiful performers. But at least fucking send them traveling for 4 years before you put them in those representative seats. Of course, my vote is for direct democracy, but who's listening? Thank you, Mrs. Sinema, for traveling. Thank you for trying to learn. About the planet in which you are trying to rule, which is obviously it's a very logical thing to do. I am very sorry that they punished you for it.